We are working through the solving square root functions algebraically worksheet, and we made it to number 13, which is the beginning of some of the harder equations on here. So when you have two square root functions, I generally am going to try to get them onto opposite sides of the equal sign, because what that does for us is when we square both sides, you can see that we are going to get rid of at least one of our square root signs here, or one of our square root signs. So that side is going to become negative 4 minus 4r. Now what happens on the other side, we don't get rid of the square root, but going from 2 to 1 is better than having going from 2 to still having 2. So we have to multiply this out. So if that's squared, that's the same as saying 3 plus the square root of negative 4 minus r times the same exact thing. That's what it means to square something. When we square things, we have to multiply the first term by both in one parenthesis by both terms in the other. We have to do that for all we have to do have 4 terms come out of this. Ugh, Friday, words. So that side doesn't change. And on this side, we've got 3 times 3 is 9, plus 3 times the square root of negative 4 minus r. Okay? Don't freak out about something like this. You can only do what you can do. Can you multiply the 3 by the square root of negative 4 minus r? No. So you just keep them together. It would be the same thing as if I said, what's x times y? Well, you just can't do that. It's just xy. So don't worry too much about that. You just keep on keeping on. So we've done 3 times 3. We did 3 times the square root of negative 4 minus r. Now we're doing the square root of negative 4 minus r times 3 again. That's here. And then we have square root of negative 4 minus r times the square root of negative 4 minus r. If what's underneath the square root is the same, when we multiply those square roots cancel out, or the power becomes 1 instead of 1/2, and all we're left with is negative 4 minus r. So now it's time to combine some like terms. We got negative 4 minus 4r equals 9 minus 4, that's just 5. We have 3 square roots of negative 4 minus r plus 3 more, so that's 6 total square roots of negative 4 minus r. And then minus r out here at the end. Alright, we're going to try now, because we have one square root, we're going to try to isolate that square root, keep it on just one side of the equation, and move everything else over. So I'm going to add r and subtract 5 from both sides. And I get negative 9 minus 3r is equal to 6 times the square root of negative 4 minus r. Then I'll divide by 6 on both sides. Okay. Whoop. Alright, let's do a little... Oh, lost some stuff there. Alright, let's do a little simplifying over here on the left side of the equal sign before we move on. 9, 3, and 6. They're all divisible by 3. So let's do that. Let's divide all of them by 3. That'll be 1r over 2 is equal to the square root of negative 4 minus r. Now if you didn't do that, you'd still come out with the right answer. It would just, your numbers would be bigger. I feel like you'd be more likely to make a mistake as far as simplifying or factoring goes. So once you get the square root isolated by itself, you're going to square both sides. The square root and the square cancel out. We're just left with negative 4 minus r. Then on the other side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of square them individually. So we can do that. We can split this up into this squared and then the numerator squared. Okay, so 2 squared is 4, so that's what's in the bottom of my fraction. And then up in the numerator, I have negative 3 minus r times negative 3 minus r. So let's multiply that numerator out. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, minus 3r minus, or negative 3 times negative r, which is 3r, plus another 3r. And then negative r times negative r is r squared. All divided by 4 equal to negative 4 minus r. Okay, instead of trying to divide 9, 6, and 1 by 4, let's multiply both sides by 4. So now what we have is r squared plus 6r plus 9 is equal to negative 4r minus 16. Almost done. Proud of you for coming this far. Let's add 4, move it over to this side, and then add 16, put it over on this side. Now it's equal to 0. We got a quadratic set equal to 0, so we can factor it, we can graph it, we can do the quadratic formula, we could complete the square, but the square is already completed. So we need factors. Let's try to factor it. We need factors of 25 that add up to the middle term, positive 10. That's just positive 5 and positive 5. Alright, since both of our factors are the same, we only have one answer, and it's that r equals negative 5. So with that, let's go back all the way up to the top, which is a lot of scrolling on this problem, because I only used half the page. Go all the way back up to the top and try to plug in negative 5 to make sure that it works. So if I plug in a negative 5 at the top, it would be the square root of negative 4 plus 20 is equal to 3 plus the square root of negative 4 minus negative 5 is 1. So that's the square root of 16, which is 4. Is that equal to 3 plus the square root of 1, which is 1? It sure is. And so our answer, all the way down at the bottom, x equals, or r equals negative 5. Long problem number 2, but not quite as long as the last one. That last one's pretty long. Alright, we've already got two things. They're on separate sides of two square roots. They're on separate sides of the equal sign. So let's square both sides. Square and the square root cancel out. We're left with 1 minus the square root of 1 minus n squared is equal to negative 4 minus n. Okay, I want to show something a little different on this one. And that is treating this square root as if it were just a variable, because we can't do anything with it. So let's just call it something that's simpler to write than the square root of 1 minus n. Let's say that that's y. We're going to do a substitution here. So what we've got is 1 minus y squared. It's the same as 1 minus y times 1 minus y. Okay, if we multiply that out, we'll get 1 times 1 is 1, minus y plus y squared. So that's 1 minus 2y plus y squared. Okay. Now that we've multiplied this out, let's resubstitute the square root of 1 minus n back in for y. That's 1 minus 2 times the square root of 1 minus n plus, well, if we square the square root, that square root sign is going to go away. We're going to be left with 1 minus n. Okay. So if you like this process, I'd encourage you to do it. Makes things, I don't know if it makes them easier, but perhaps easier to understand, easier to see when you're multiplying those things out, instead of having this big square root everywhere. So we've got 2, because 1 plus 1 is 2, minus n minus 2 times the square root of 1 minus n is equal to negative 4 minus n. Now we need to get everything that's not the square root to the other side. Negative 2 times the square root of 1 minus n is equal to, okay, let's subtract this 2. So negative 4 minus 2, that's negative 6. We have an n. Let's add n to both sides, and whoop, those are gone. So the next step would just be to divide by negative 2. To get those to divide out, we've got the square root of 1 minus n is equal to 3. Now we square both sides. We get 1 minus n equals 9. Subtract 1, get negative n equals positive 8. N equals negative 8. Okay. Now, big question mark still. I haven't checked it. Got to go back to the top and check it every time. Let me erase all this, and I'll check it right above here. Alright, so 1 minus, what did we say the answer was? Negative 8? 1 minus negative 8, that's just 1 plus 8. Is that equal to negative 4 plus the square root of negative 4 plus 8? So let's simplify. What we've got here is 1 minus the square root of 9. 1 minus the square root of 9 is negative 2. Is that equal to the square root of 4? The square root of 4 is 2. So I've got negative 2 equals 2. No, it doesn't equal 2. They're not the same thing. So our answer, I love that. I love that aspect of this board. So our answer is actually that there is no answer. So algebraically, we got one solution. But that solution was extraneous. We plugged it back into the original equation, and it didn't fulfill the equality. They're not equal. So n does not equal negative 8, and that was our only option going forward, so there is no solution. Alright, the last two problems I'll put in a new video.